Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tom Cruise told a Hollywood Reporter that he wants to keep working into his 100th, Tony. How about you?
I'm Tony Kornheiser, same. I'm just 3 years away. Yeah.
You know,
I want to do
look,
it.
Tom Cruise brought this up, and he still looks great, but he looks weathered. He doesn't look as young as he used to. He's not as young and as pretty as Rob Lowe anymore. I still love to watch Tom Cruise, but I mean, come on now, hundreds? He's 40 years from that.
When you say he looks weathered, he's 62 years old.
Okay.
I think he looks great.
He does.
I'd love to look like Tom Cruise.
No, don't get
I'd love to. Welcome to PTI, boys.
Like Rob Lowe.
Today's episode, the Panthers win Game 7, Scotty Scheffler wins his third major, and the Knicks head to the Eastern Conference Finals. But we begin today with the Oklahoma City Thunder crushing the Denver Nuggets to win their series in 7 games and become the last team to advance to the conference finals. Denver actually led by 11 in the first quarter, but was then blitzed in the second quarter and left at the side of the road in the third and the fourth quarters. The final margin here was 32 points. Wilbon, does winning the series in 7 games strengthen or lessen your belief in the Thunder, who you picked at the beginning of the year to win the title?
I did, Tony, and I got real shaky in that Denver series. I was like on edge for a long time because of what Joker can and has done to people. But I'm going to tell you why I'm a little bit strengthened. I'm not going to get carried away now. I'm a little bit strengthened because of a wrinkle that, a head coach, Mark Daniel, and his staff make to say, we're going to put a terrific defender, an all-league defender, but he's only 6'4", maybe 6'5", probably 6'4". We're going to put him in front of Joker and say, deny this 7-foot behemoth who you are outweighed by 100 pounds, deny him the ball. We're going to have a free safety back there, which will be a 7-footer, Holmgren some of the time. We're going to put him out there. We're going to blitz him. We're going to do this thing, and we're going to try it really for the first time in Game 7. It takes stones. It takes intellect. It takes a collective effort and a belief in your coach. And if you're a young team and you can go into the finals, and I know I'm pointing out something rather small, Tony, but they know they were struggling at times late in that series. They needed something. They go to it, and they get this result where Joker looks merely, all world, not like the best player in the world. He was not that yesterday. And I'm looking at Oklahoma City going, bravo. You got something here that the stuff that is champions are made of. That's what I'm thinking.
So I'll speak for the more casual fans when I say this. The game was not worth watching at all. In Game 2 of this series, Oklahoma City beat Denver by 43 points. And in Game 7, Oklahoma City beat Denver by 32 points. Both of those wins came after losses, as Oklahoma City attempted to establish they were the better team. And they are the significantly better team than Denver. Everybody saw it and everybody knows it, including Nikola Jokic, who said afterwards he doesn't think Denver, as constituted right now, can win a championship. Right? So I want to leave that behind, and I want to look forward to the conference finals. We are seeing, I think you would agree, we are seeing an NBA where it's the last time around for LeBron. It's the last time around
Changing
for
of
Steph
the
Curry.
guard.
Mike, there's going to be this year, because Boston is out, for the 7th straight year, a different champion in the NBA. For the 7th straight year. So what does that tell you? That tells you there is a changing of the guard, and it tells you there's more parity, because 7 different teams in 7 different years indicates parity. Mike, we have in the conference finals now, a 6 seed, a 4 seed, and a 3 seed. Who saw that coming? Nobody is the correct answer. Nobody saw a 6, a 4, and a 3. We are going to get now, and I'll be very brief here, we're going to get essentially unknown teams and unknown stars. They're a year or 2 away, most of these people. And I hope that's what the NBA wants, because the attraction of the heavyweight, long-term, big-time team is out this year. May happen again next year.
It may be trending out. Let me ask you real quickly. You covered mostly a different NBA. You mentioned the 4 stars, of course, Brunson, Halliburton, Ant-Man, and Shea. We'll get later into the week into which one of those guys you identify with more. But you covered a league where there were dynastic teams that hung around and were Muhammad Ali. They were for years. Okay, what do you think of what you're seeing now relative to what you covered?
Look, Yes, I like dynasties. You know that. Without liking the Yankees, I like the idea of the Yankees. I like the idea of the Celtics, the idea of the Lakers. I like there to be one big team all the time that everybody takes a shot at. UCLA in basketball for 15 years with John Wooden. I like that. So I'm a little leery about this, but it may be time. Let's move to hockey and the results from the weekend. On Saturday, Dallas beat Winnipeg, the overall #1 seed. Dallas got a goal in overtime to eliminate the Jets 4-2 in games. Florida got 6 goals yesterday in Game 7 in Toronto to win that series. This is the 7th straight time Toronto has lost a Game 7 and failed to advance. Wilbon, which Canadian elimination is a bigger deal, the Jets or the Leafs?
Oh, my God, this is so easy for me. The Maple Leafs going out, Tony, the way they went out at home, giving up 6 goals, it was never competitive. I think it was 3-0. They score a goal, and it goes to 4-1 very quickly. And watching Austin Matthews' face, the Maple Leaf star, after the game, it looked like he was presiding over a funeral, because he essentially was in sports vernacular. Yeah. And Tony, it wasn't just the Game 7 loss. They lost Game 5 giving up 6 goals. They lost those last 2 games, 12-3? And you're looking at it, yeah, they bounce back, they win 2-0, they force the Game 7. And I turned on, it was already 2-0. I'm like, what is Toronto's deal? Tony, it's got to be so hard to be them. It's got to be like a stretch of decades being the Red Sox or the Cubs or the Knicks, who are trying to pull themselves out from under the weight of this pressure as well. I feel for Toronto. I do.
Yeah, I'm not going to take up the cause of Winnipeg here, because President's Trophy teams lose almost every year. They lose all the time. And whenever we've had PK Subban on, he seemed to always indicate that there was something maybe lacking in Winnipeg. And by the way, whenever I turned on this series, someone in Dallas was having a hat trick. So, I'm going to concentrate. The circumstance with Toronto and Florida is significantly more interesting. 7 straight Game 7 losses. Yeah. They have not won a Game 7 since 2004. Mike, this is like they're being followed around by a pack of vultures. They must smell of decay and death, and the vultures gather around. In those 7 Game 7 losses, it's an amazing statistic. They have been outscored 28-9. That's so awful. 28-9. In Florida's case, they walked into the series. They were 0-5 all time in series where they started out 0-2. They started out 0-2 in this series. And then in the last 5 games, they scored 19 goals and they gave up 8. They changed their history at the expense of Toronto. Yeah. That's how that happened. It's tragic. It's tragic poetry, Tony, for Toronto. It is tragic.
The only draft pick they need to make is for a team shrink, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And maybe a team of them. Wow. They just get blitzed. I do feel for them. And now to the PGA Championship. Scottie Scheffler was tied at the turn with Jon Rahm Sunday, but pulled away to win by 5-7 over Rahm. It's Scheffler's 3rd major victory before the age of 30. What does this win in his recent 3-year run indicate, Tony?
Oh, okay. So Scottie Scheffler is the best golfer in the world. I think we really have to start with that. He is also knocking on all time. He just became, by winning the PGA, he became the 3rd person since World War II. Let me repeat that. Since World War II to win at least 3 majors and at least 15 PGA Tour events. And I know what you're thinking, Mike. You're thinking, oh, it's 5.
No, that's a legit.
That's
a legit one.
This is legit because the other 2 guys are Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's the list.
Yep.
All right? I mean, Scottie Scheffler, and he is a very special golfer. He starts out yesterday, he comes in with a 3-stroke lead. You think he's going to put it away. It's going to be boring, but he's bad on the front. He's +2 on the front. And when he turns for 10, he's in a tie, right, with
a
Jon
guy
Rahm,
with the same number of majors as he has.
Not a stiff by any part of the imagination. So he's been pulling all of his drives left. Time after time on the front, all the drives are going wildly left. And as our friend Steve Sands from the Golf Channel likes to say, there's no timeout in golf. Okay, there's no trip to the mound in golf. You got to figure it out on your own. And he did. And he did. And in the early parts, Mike, of the back 9, All the drives were straight, and then he got 3 birdies. And then suddenly, with about 4 holes to go, he's up by 5. He, as we say of goalies, he came up large in his own building.
He had a B- sort of weekend. Here's the thing to me about Rahm. He was at B- level for him by his standard that we've seen in a 3-year run plus. And
You mean Scheffler, not Rahm.
Scheffler.
Yeah.
And then he had some A+ moments. But overall, I don't think if you were sitting with him right now having a cold one, I don't think he'd give himself an A anything. He had the moments. But isn't that what a champion is, when you are less than yourself and you can still produce at the highest level against a whole field of people? The people who came back and who weren't up to the moment. Rahm is the most noticeable. I know Rahm has been sort of out of it, since going to
made
live.
a slight run.
But you know what,
DeChambeau
Tony?
made a slight run. Matty Fitz made a slight run.
But
They made a slight run.
Rahm is equal to Scheffler. He's got 2 majors. They entered, when they were 9 even at 9 under, they were both 9 under and 2 majors apiece. And Rahm shrank from the moment, and Scheffler did not.
And Scheffler did not.
No.
You should feel good, because last week I said to you, will you take Scheffler, Rory, and Justin Thomas against the field? And you said you would. I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have. You won it. Let's take a break. Coming up, what were the biggest takeaways from baseball's rivalry weekend?
Tony forced me to watch the Horsies again, and I'll tell you what I concluded. Oh, my God.
Rivalry weekend, very hard to say because of the combination of letters.
Oh,
it's hard to say.
I watched a lot of it,
and then go right into weekend. Yeah. Time to get thoughts from the throngs. Let me see what's first. Go to the glasses. Pull out the question. Did you approve of baseball's first rivalry weekend?
Very much. I don't need a theme, but very much for me. But I have a horse in the race. I'm fully into the Cubs now. We're in a real baseball time of year. We're not March 30th or any dumb stuff. And the Cubs swept the White Sox. The Cubs are in first place, though narrowly holding off, of course, the Red Hot Cardinals. And that's going to put me in a stressful mood all summer if we can hold position with the Cardinals. But there were a lot of those, Tony. You know, the Nationals and the Orioles. I got stuck watching the Yankees-Mets last night and actually stayed with it. And you have some other things out in California. You have a few of them don't work. The Red Sox and the Braves don't work. For me, I looked up there and saw the logos, and I was like, oh, what do we got here? But a lot of them do work, and I don't care about everybody else's. I care about mine, especially as long as the Cubs now have an advantage over the White Sox. 3 after going 74-74 even for years. The Cubs now have swept 3 to take a 3-game lead over the Sox.
Yeah, thank you for that update on the Chicago baseball.
That's right.
I have spent my entire life in 2 cities, in New York and in Washington, where they have rivalries that matter. The Mets and the Yankees matter in New York. The Nationals and the Orioles matter.
Do they?
These are geographic rivalries. Well, the Nats just came into the league about 20 years ago, but the proximity of the cities, the 40 miles apart of the cities of Washington and Baltimore makes sense. You have what you have in Chicago. You have in Pennsylvania, you have the Pirates and the Phillies. You have Cincinnati and Cleveland and Ohio.
Has
in
a
Missouri,
good one.
You have Kansas City and St. Louis. And these things all matter. I understand that. The Angels and the Dodgers, they matter. But you also have, I believe, Arizona and Colorado. And I go, what's that? What is that exactly? What is Seattle and San Diego? What is Detroit and Toronto? So while I like the idea of it, it's a gimmick, and sometimes it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. But on balance, I like it.
Well, the others have to live with it. Collateral damage.
How would you describe journalism's win in the Preakness Stakes, Mr. Horsey?
Look, I've been watching competitive sports since I was 4 years old. I care more about it than I care about anything in my life. And yet, sometimes something happens. When you see that bump, when journalism, who I was rooting for, you and I both rooting for journalism for one big, fat, obvious reason. That's how we made a living forever and ever. But when journalism survives the bump, whether initiating it or receiving it, and then runs this horse down and turns into secretariat for about 8 seconds, I thought it was the most thrilling thing I have seen, one of the most thrilling things I have ever seen in sports, And I don't care about the horses. I had to call you and scream at you on voicemail to say, Tony, is there still a Preakness? If there is, when is it on? I knew nothing. And it's one of the great things I've ever seen.
Yeah, so I was in New York City at a high school reunion, and 7 of us left where we were to go find a bar at this hour with a lot of TVs to watch this race. There's a bar on 44th Street. I think it's called Virgil's. I'm not sure. And you can't hear anything when you're in there, but I'm watching this race on 1,000 televisions with about 200 people. All right, it's sensational. The horse gets bumped, the horse gets sandwiched, the horse escapes, and now he's got to run down the leader. Mike, this is not anything you would know. It's the shortest of the Triple Crown races. So it looks like he only has about 100 yards to make up 50 yards. And yes, it's accurate to say, and he turns into Secretary.
Unbelievable.
And he runs this other horse down. And it is thrilling. That's another one of your words. I endorse that word. It was absolutely thrilling to watch this in a big crowd.
God.
People screaming as they watched it. And I only hope that sovereignty and journalism run in the Belmont in a sort of a winner-take-all.
Indications are they
both run
won't
it.
in the Triple Crown.
I hope they
change the dates of the races.
That's
Give us the whole summer of this.
Separated by a
stage.
month, not 2 weeks and 3 weeks, a month and a month.
Yeah.
Enough email. Let's take one last break. Still to come. The Eagles reach a deal with your boy Nick Sirianni.
And Giannis will reportedly sit down with the Bucks this week. Virgil's is one of my spots. Virgil's has great ribs.
Really?
Yes, it's on 44th.
Yeah, on 44th
I've been going to
Street.
Virgil's for 35 years.
7 people from Hewlett High School.
How about that?
And we walked in there and we went, and it was great. Happy time, people. Happy 68th birthday, Bill Laimbeer. The 6'11 center is best known for his stellar work on the bad boy Detroit Pistons, with Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Rick Mahorn, and Laimbeer at the top of the cast. Those Pistons won 2 NBA championships, and Laimbeer provided toughness, rebounding, and a soft touch from distance that was ahead of its time. Laimbeer went on to be a very successful coach in the WNBA, bringing home 3 championships. You know, Mike, I always thought it was too easy to paint Laimbeer simply as a villain.
Really?
Though he took it well. I think he's one of the most underrated players ever. They would not have won without him in Detroit.
He is underrated. And I also find him today, in our advanced age, loathsome. Always did. He wanted to be the villain. He embraced it. You see, when Robert Parrish knocked him out, and Jess Kersey looked at Laimbeer on the ground in a Game 7, on the floor in Boston Garden, and said, Bill, get up. Told you what everybody thought of him outside the Pistons, and he was everything you said and loathsome.
It's good to see you're mellowing with age. You don't hold grudges. Happy anniversary, Howe family. On this day 51 years ago, Red Wings legend Gordie Howe teamed up with his sons Mark and Marty to lead the Houston Aeros to a sweep of your Chicago Cougars and the WHA championship, the first of back-to-back championships in the World Hockey Association. At age 46, Howe won the WHA MVP, an award that was later renamed the Gordie Howe Trophy.
Yeah.
Howe played with the Aeros until 1977 when he and his sons joined the New England Whalers, who would later become the NHL's Hartford Whalers when the merger occurred in 1979. Howe finally retired in 1980 at age 52. The Howes are the first family of hockey like the Mannings in football, right, Mike?
Oh, there's no question, Tony. It was great being a little kid, seeing Gordie Howe. I got to see the end of Howe with the Red Wings and the number 9. But then to see him play that long and play that well with his sons, amazing. A chapter that's probably not talked about often enough.
Happy trails to Wyndham Clark's driver. Clark dealt with his frustration over a wayward drive on 16 by flinging his driver into a sponsor wall behind the tee box, putting a hole in it. A marshal was holding a flag just a yard away. The driver head broke off from the shaft, so Clark had to finish the round without the club. Other players like Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler were forced to change out their drivers after pre-tournament testing ruled that their club faces were too springy from being thinned out by use.
You know, if you're going to check the drivers, it would seem to me, check all of them. Not just 50, check everybody's driver in the field. Or you just, what are you doing? I mean, how do you decide which 50 to check? That's sort of weird to me.
I agree with this 100% because you villainize people if you don't check everybody.
Right.
You have to check everybody. And you have to realize that the driver face thins out because they hit the ball time after time after time. People think they're cheating. They're not cheating.
No.
You know, check everybody. Let's go to the big finish. Caitlin Clark in the Fever trounced Angel Reese and your Chicago Sky in the season opener. Your reaction?
The result is incidental. What goes on between those two and the perception and the reaction to them and anything they do, that's going to wind up being, for better or worse, a story for 10 years. The Eagles and Nick Sirianni agreed on a multi-year extension. Your thoughts?
His record is 48-20. Wow. You lock him up as long as you can. He's 48-20.
Yeah.
What are you, nuts? Chris Haynes reports that Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks will meet later this week. Do you find that significant?
Are you kidding? It's going to determine the entire summer agenda of the NBA. I mean, free agency. Suppose Dallas decides we want Giannis, and Milwaukee says, well, give us Cooper Flagg the first pick. How about that? Brock Purdy and the Niners agreed on a deal that gets him $181 million guaranteed and a no trade. Is that deserved?
Yeah, I think he's been really good. I think injuries have hurt them. He hasn't hurt them. Last one, softball, #1 overall seed, Texas A&M bounced by Liberty in the first round. You're surprised, aren't you?
In a word, yes, very surprised.
Yeah. We're out of time. We will try to do better the next time. John and Brenda Gallant, Laura Silverstein, thank you for watching.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
PTI. Mike, have more in tonight's PTI bonus topic.
All right, Wilbon. Who is the most intriguing young superstar in the NBA Conference Finals?
You're going to make me pick one? Do I have to pick one? I'm not sure. You and I talked about this on your podcast this morning, and I don't remember either one of us picking one. Of course, the four nominees are Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Ant-Man Edwards, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the presumptive MVP. And Tony, I just love watching all four of them. I do. And Halliburton, I think, is probably the least known. And the Pacers, even though he's in the conference finals last year, I think he's the least known. Ant-Man has some thunder to him. It has a little bit of a reputation. The comparisons with Michael Jordan have been out there a little bit. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be the MVP, and Brunson plays in New York, even though he's a Chicago boy. I think Tony Ant-Man has a certain charismatic way about him, and it's the dunks and the acrobatic play. I think it's Ant-Man. And I think, though, that the winner, whoever advances the furthest and picks up the trophy at the end, will emerge, at least for now. But we got a whole new changing of the guard, and I must say I love this.
We're going to sort of agree and sort of disagree. I have no idea who the most intriguing of these four players is. Here's what I know. I know, as you know, that Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be the MVP. I know, as you know, that all of the players who said that Tyrese Halliburton is the most overrated player in the game are idiots. Okay. I know, or at least I feel I know, that Anthony Edwards, who you like a lot, I feel he grasps for all of this a little too obviously. And I know this. I know that Jalen Brunson has the most to gain, because he doesn't play in Oklahoma City, and he doesn't play in Indianapolis, and he doesn't play in Minneapolis. He plays in New York. If he's the one holding up the trophy at the end of all this, he is going to vault by everybody else. Yep. Because as the song goes, if you make it there, you make it anywhere. He's going to be, because he's from New York, and they haven't won in 50 years. If that happens, Jalen Brunson takes the most giant step. That's I'm sure of that.
I'm going to ask you as a New Yorker and somebody who's followed the Knicks your whole life. Did you see the video of what happened around the Garden in Times Square all the way? Did you see the mass of people out there for winning the second round? It looked like New Year's Eve. And you're right.
It's been a long time.
Stands to Tony, I walked around New York a whole week last week. It's amazing the connection people feel with the Knickerbockers, and to see Walt Frazier and Bernard King and all the and more, Patrick Ewing and more recent guys. Yeah, Bill Bradley's sitting there, and they're sitting there watching Brunson. Man, that's quite a thing.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I think depending on the season and depending on the team, you can find that in New York with the Yankees. You can find that in New York with the Mets. You can find that in New York with the Rangers as well. When you walked around the city, did you ever stop at Virgil's? Virgil's Barbecue? Were you there?
Virgil's
West
Barbecue on
44th? I just want to
44th.
make sure. Yeah, that's where I watched the Preakness.
I'm going back to the Garden.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get a table at Virgil's. Maybe. We're done. Back to you.